Kubota Japanese Garden in Seattle, Washington is one of the top gardens in that city. It was started back in 1927 by Japanese immigrant Fujitara Kubota, who became a renowned landscape designer and landscape builder in the Seattle area during that era. And he built his own private Japanese garden, he and his son, starting in the 1920s and going for nearly 30 years building this garden. And eventually it got bought by the city of Seattle and is maintained by the City of Seattle Parks and Recreation Department. While this is an amazing garden, it has been allowed to kind of fall into a state of disrepair and neglect. And it's probably just due to lack of funding and lack of talented and knowledgeable Japanese garden craftsmen and pruners and caretakers. So in this video, I'm going to offer some suggestions on how to bring a neglected Japanese garden like the Kubota garden back into its former glory. Stay tuned. As you can see from these pictures, this is an amazing, well-designed, beautifully crafted Japanese garden, but it is completely overgrown. There is much lack of pruning and many weeds all over this beautiful and amazing garden. The current state of the garden is likely due to lack of funding by the city of Seattle and the garden supporters, as well as a lack of training, professionally trained aesthetic pruning craftsmen. So in this video, I'm going to offer some suggestions of how this garden could be brought back to its former glory and how to go about the process. First, I would focus on the entry point to the garden, inside and outside of the main gate. Now, these shrubs have been sheared and they look nice enough, but many of the plants need to be opened up and pruned in a Tsukashi naturalistic style. Everything in a Japanese garden cannot be sheared. Many plants, if not most plants, need to be opened up, thinned out, and layered in a beautiful Japanese natural style. So this is where I would start, right here at the entrance. Next, I would determine the garden's key features, and that's where I would focus my energies on next. Depending on the type of garden this is, it may be a pond or a lake or a waterfalls or a stream, a grouping of pine trees, a rock garden, a tea house and a tea garden, or some other unique, prominent features of the garden that draw the attention of most of the viewers. In the Kubota garden, for example, there are many unique features, including this terrace with an overlook of one of many lakes and ponds located in the garden. And there are many unique features like this lantern that is made out of rock. And we can see many rocks, walkways, and waterfalls. The waterfalls, some of which are so overgrown you can hardly see them. So the plants need to be pruned around these waterfalls, which are almost hidden by the undergrowth of the plants around them. And then we have a number of beautiful bridges with viewpoints that offer stunning views of lakes and little ponds and streams. Again, the plants are very mature but very overgrown. So these would be key areas that I would focus on. So going hand in hand with the garden's key features, such as ponds, lakes, waterfalls, streams, grouping of pine trees or other high-value trees, rock gardens, a tea house, tea garden, or a terrace, or gazebos. Along with that goes determining the main focal points or viewpoints of the garden. Again, this is where the largest number of people are going to be viewing the garden from. So these are important high value points where the most number of people are going to get the most enjoyment out of the garden. Now, yes, some of these areas, like we see here in the pictures, have a very large view with a lot of plants. So priorities have to be established, and we'll talk about that very shortly. But these would be the important areas to focus on after the garden's key features are identified. So look for high value, main focal point areas. And many Japanese gardens have focal points. It may be a waterfall, it may be a pond, it may be a stream, it may be a grouping of rocks or plants. And these are the places that people stand to view the garden from. So it's important to clean those areas up. Next, we want to identify the garden's high value trees. Since trees are the largest plant materials in a garden, they are a key element to a Japanese garden. Thus, it is important to identify the garden's most important trees. Start with the pines, then the Japanese maples, including the upright, as well as the lace leaf or weeping lace leaf Japanese maples. And then go from the cherries, since these trees are often the keystone trees in a traditional Japanese garden. And then go from there. Now, as we see in this panorama of the upper lake in the Kubota Japanese garden, there are a lot of trees. And it requires a trained arborist who is also knowledgeable about pruning in the Japanese style. So that's why it's important to prioritize which trees are the key trees in a Japanese garden and then focus on those and go from there. The next step in restoring a neglected Japanese garden is to identify the garden's high-value small trees and small shrubs. This would be larger plants such as rhododendrons, camellias, and the like. After this, focus on smaller plants like azaleas and nandinas, boxwoods, Japanese hollies, viburnum davidii, and this kind of thing. These are important aspects of the garden since they are like they're close to the ground. They're like the skin, if you will, on the body of the Japanese garden. Next, we need to determine which plants and small ornamental shrubs and trees need to be sheared. There is a place for shearing in the Japanese garden, but just not everything. Shearing would include things like hedges, individual shrubs such as barberry, Japanese holly, boxwoods, yews, arborvitae, and similar shrubs. Then there are the masses of sheared shrubs such as azaleas, which are a key element in many Japanese gardens. For example, sheared azaleas and similar shrubs can create striking visual element that often evokes the sense of a forested or grass-covered mountains or hills. Sheared shrubs can also form a visual contrast alongside the more naturally and less formally shaped trees and shrubs in the garden. Shearing is a quick and easy way to create quick visual fix to any unkempt and neglected garden, but only certain shrubs should be sheared. We never shear plants like rhododendrons, lace leaf maples, and camellias, and other type shrubs. Next, we come to probably what should be the most obvious aspect of caring for a Japanese garden, or any garden for that matter, and that would be the removal of weeds. Yes, weed control is an important part of maintaining a Japanese garden. I mean, what's the point of pruning everything, making it look beautiful, and then having these plants growing out of a weed patch? So, yeah, we may have beautifully pruned trees and shrubs, but in a weed patch doesn't work. We also recommend removing weeds, especially in the high traffic, high visible focal point areas and at entrances and egresses to the garden and in major places like that. In conclusion, there are few man-made artistic creations more sublime, more beautiful than a well manicured and maintained Japanese garden. The enduring quality and value of a Japanese garden down through the centuries, 1300 years, is evident in the fact that Japanese gardens are to be found all over the world. As I have traveled in many countries around the world on many continents, often I will look ahead to see if there is a Japanese garden there. And more often than not, Japanese gardens are to be found in many places that you would not expect. That is the enduring and popular nature of the Japanese garden. All over the world, North America, South America, Asia, Europe, all over the United States. There are some 300 Japanese gardens in North America alone. That ought to say something about the value, the art form, the classical nature and beauty and supernal nature and transcendence of a Japanese garden and the joy that it brings to people of all races, of all religions, of all nationalities. So a Japanese garden is a bridge of peace and love and joy and harmony throughout the world and between many, many people. It's literally an avenue of peace, like music between peoples. And young and old, it's a pathway to something special, something beautiful, something higher. For me and many others, it is a pathway to something transcendent, almost something heavenly. Therefore, is it not worth nurturing and caring for the Japanese style garden, the Garden of Eden, the paradise in your life, in your neighborhood, in your city?